This is Pulse 95. You're listening to the Morning Majlis podcast.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis.
It's the Morning Majlis.
Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Hello and good morning. Welcome on to the Morning Majlis. Thursday vibes in the studio, certainly, but we're also going to be talking a little bit more about Sharjah and touching a little bit more on the history because Ahmed Dawood is here with me, Rania is here as we refresh our memories of Sharjah. We'll delve a little bit back into the good old days, as many expats would like to say. And because we have Shane Breen with us in the studios, who is from Savills. Very good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, Shane, what we're going to be talking about today, are we looking at this new term, the new Sharjah?
We're going to be talking about the Sharjah residential market and the trends that we've found that are happening at the moment within Sharjah. So they're looking at the existing Sharjah city, which everyone's well aware of, as well as the emergence of what we're terming the new Sharjah, which is sort of out towards the east, towards University City and the 611.
Well, you know, one thing that we certainly are excited to talk a little bit more about is, without giving away your age, we can say that you were a Sharjah born and bred.
I was indeed. Born in Al Zahra Hospital.
Nice. There we go. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the good old days as well. And so stay tuned to Pulse 95. Send us your questions on text lines 4215. If you've got any in terms of asking about places to move, potential places to invest in as well. And this is the time for Sharjah as we look forward to the new Sharjah and the emerging Sharjah. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95. You're listening to Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
it's Pulse 95. Pulse 95.
Between local lines, notes from the emirate.
Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Majlis. We have a special guest with us in the studio, Shane Breen. He's the Director of Commercial Valuations and Consultancy Services at Savills in Sharjah. Savills is the Middle East's, or one of the leading real estate services providers in the Middle East. Welcome to the Morning Majlis.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here to talk all things new Sharjah, and we have a thriving area where we've been seeing a lot of real estate projects as of late. But for the listeners, can you describe what is New Sharjah?
Well, New Sharjah is, to most people might not be so new. It's generally what we're terming anything sort of east of the 311. So looking at areas surrounding University City, going all the way out to the sort of 611 to Talal City, Al Siyukh and Rahmaniya, those areas further out. And they're sort of part of a change in the market dynamics where we've seen a lot of new developments happening in these locations where there's generally been a surplus of available land for developers to build, and a lot of new master plan communities as a result are heading out to those locations.
That's brilliant. And in terms of benefits, what benefits do these new areas have for people interested in moving over there or living there?
Well, there's multiple factors that sort of push or sort of make people want to live in these sort of locations. Obviously, within what we're terming emerging Sharjah, one of the prime areas are those areas that surround University City. So areas like Jurena, Muwayla Commercial. And one of the primary drivers we've seen is obviously location. Within real estate, location is key. And we've seen that location and proximity, particularly to University City, which is a key driver for professionals working within the universities as well as students, and also proximity to the Muwayla School District. And there's a lot of schools, Sharjah sort of developed this school district within Muwayla where obviously there's a high volume of schools, which makes it attractive for families to want to live in those locations too. Connectivity is also key. Sharjah, for a long time, a lot of people talk about the issues with congestion, particularly if you're trying to head down to Tahad Road. Whereas within sort of these new locations, there's improved connectivity to Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Highway, to the Emirates Road, which help ease congestion and travel times for those who are commuting to, let's say, Dubai or to the Northern Emirates as well.
It's a bit of an interesting location, the proximity to University City and the schools. And as a result of that, have you been seeing demand from certain demographic groups, certain age groups maybe, who are more interested in these areas than others?
I mean, aside from families, which have historically been one of the, obviously the largest proportion of demographic when it comes to Sharjah's tenant market, what we've seen is a spike in the number of students wanting to take accommodation. Some of the reasons for this are obviously potentially as well that the on-site accommodation is actually more expensive than taking accommodation off-site, and as well as by taking accommodation off-site, there's additional freedoms. When you go to university, you're becoming an adult. You want your own space and your own freedoms, and sort of off-site accommodation definitely allows that. And also, particularly in the past couple of years, we've seen the quality of properties and developments within sort of Muwayla in particular sort of improve, which has attracted more students to the market as well. And particularly one project we were actively involved in was Al Zahia's garden apartments, where we saw a good percentage of tenants being students within the university city. In some cases, we had some GCC tenants who were taking apartments for their son, for their daughter who were attending university, and then an apartment for their housemaids who were going with them from Saudi to attend university. So there's definitely a good demand from the student population within Sharjah.
But what are the most in-demand areas that are trending right now in Sharjah, Shane?
So we've, based on our own sort of internal research and from the data we've collected from our in-house leasing and property management teams, we've seen that particularly the University City area has been our number one. And there was a spike between the first 2 quarters of this year, which happened to coincide with the handover of Zahia's garden apartments, which would be natural. They're offering the first fully gated community, which attracted a lot of tenants to that market. Aside from Muwayla and University City, the second coming up was definitely within Al Khan. Again, popular with commuters commuting into Dubai, and also generally the age of properties within that location are newer, offering a better quality of accommodation, which attracts tenants. And then moving from there, you've got your typical areas such as Al Majaz and places like Casamia as well.
That's it's very interesting to see that for sure. But in terms of the general trend that we're seeing at the moment, and it is no surprise to many people will be thinking, this is the rents are falling, so it's better time to now think of maybe looking for a bit of an upgrade, move to newer places. Have you seen more consumer trend driving towards that? And what would you say to people who might be driving to work at the moment thinking, I think I can move this year? But maybe it's not the best of all ideas, but maybe it is. So if they're double-minded, for a consumer perspective, would you say that it's time to upgrade?
I think in the current market, there's definitely opportunities.
Yeah.
It's a tenant market at the end of the day, and there is a slight oversupply in the market, which gives tenants options. Historically, tenants didn't have options in Sharjah, and you had to move quickly to secure a property in a certain building. Whereas now we're finding that the tenants have the time to shop around, to go and look at different properties. And whilst affordability is always a key consideration for tenants in Sharjah, quality is now also becoming a growing requirement from tenants, and you're seeing that vacancy rates within older properties that aren't well maintained are rising because tenants are choosing to go to better quality buildings, and particularly newer stock. Sharjah tenants love a new building, and those buildings that offer facilities or are closer to amenities and sort of F&B and retail outlets.
We're seeing this new trend of gated communities as well, and most of these the properties and the projects that are being developed is offering that. And why is that now becoming a new trend, do you think?
It's becoming a new trend, I think, in part with the entrance of a lot of these developers who are making this offer in Sharjah, which is generally fairly new. Zahia was obviously the start of this trend. And then you've got the entrance of developments such as Mamsha, Jada, these large master plan communities which are offering an international standard quality sort of offering. And I think tenants in particular want this offering because it's an improvement on the quality that's already existing in Sharjah. And it's something different. They're seeing what's happening in sort of neighbouring emirates, and they want a piece of that, and they want to live in Sharjah because Sharjah tenants, a lot of people think that people have to live in Sharjah purely for affordability reasons, but there are a large portion of tenants who choose to live in Sharjah. Sharjah has a lot sort of to offer, and particularly from the family side, and we find that the tenants want to live in Sharjah, by getting this offering of gated communities, master plan developments that have a higher quality and a higher standard of living, tenants are definitely moving that direction. And some of the findings from our report show that for the completed units, they're actually attracting some of the highest rents we're seeing in Sharjah for the high-end market segment. Zahia's Garden Apartments is one of those, for example, where their rents are higher than existing Sharjah City. However, on average, Sharjah City still does attract the premium rents due to the offering that they have in terms of facilities, swimming pools, gyms, and proximity to the center of the commercial districts, particularly around Al Majaz, as well as F&B outlets, Majaz Waterfront, Kasbah Canal, these sorts of things.
Perfect. Well, I mean, there's lots to discuss, and we know that you are born and brought up in Sharjah, so we'll be delving a little bit more in terms of how things have changed. And let's send us your questions on 4215, and we'll look forward to welcoming those as well. Stay tuned to the Morning Majlis.
This is Pulse 95. It's a Sharjah story. Pulse 95.
Between local lines, notes from the emirate. Pulse.
Hello and welcome back to the Morning Majlis as we are discussing all things Sharjah real estate with Shane Breen. So, Shane, can you delve into what are the tenants actually mainly looking for in essence, to whether they're looking for a studio or 1 or 2 or 3 bedroom apartments, and what are the expected prices or the price range?
It really depends on the market segment that you're looking at. Within our report, we've sort of covered 2 market segments, that being the high end and the mid end segments. Generally within the high-end segment, the target demographic is sort of families. And those families within that segment are looking for 2s, 3s, 4 bedrooms apartments. Within the mid-market segment, that changes slightly. And you find that families are generally looking for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So it really depends on sort of the demographic that you're looking at within that market.
But we've been reading that people in Sharjah, the real estate market here tends to be price sensitive, and people are always looking for more affordable apartments. Does new Sharjah offer that affordability and convenience?
In part it does. So on average, rents in sort of the emerging parts of Sharjah are definitely more affordable. However, we are seeing that gap change with the entrance of some of these new gated communities. The price difference is shrinking between existing Sharjah City and emerging Sharjah. Tenants are, on average, generally looking for more affordability. However, they're still willing to pay a premium within the market. It's not all about affordability. And we do see that the people, if the building's of great quality, the offerings are facilities are there, tenants will pay a premium to live in those units. And you see that within buildings around Majaz, which obviously benefit from amazing views over Bahara Corniche, as well as within University City area, where you've got maybe buildings that are a part of a gated community.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea? Do you have an idea on the rate of tenants relocating from neighboring emirates to Sharjah?
Unfortunately, we don't. But you do see, there is always a shift with the change in the markets. We saw it in 2009 with the downturn in the market after the financial crisis, and we're seeing it again now, where Sharjah becomes more affordable, and there is a percentage of tenants who might be relocating from places like Ajman into Sharjah, and again, some Sharjah residents are moving into Dubai, perhaps. But in large part, the majority of tenants are just relocating within Sharjah, looking for better deals, looking for better quality accommodation, and trying to find something that suits their own requirements better.
And I'd like to touch on what you said about people paying a premium to live right here in Sharjah, because it can't just be about affordability and getting the most value to it. Sharjah has a lot of perks, doesn't it?
It does indeed. I think that people will pay a premium for living in places that offer them a lifestyle that they like. There's a lot of social benefits to living in Sharjah. You see it particularly around Majaz, obviously the center of Sharjah, the heart of Sharjah, which has a lot of F&B outlets, whether it be through Kasbah Canal, Majaz Waterfront. There's a lot of retail and shopping centers as well. And there is a premium to be had for landlords who have properties in those locations that have a good offering to give to tenants.
Well, we saw, as per the figures that your team has sent to us, 10.2 billion dirhams worth of residential transactions during H1 2019. Are we expecting this trend to continue, and where do we see this market growing?
I think that the overall volume of transactions would be expected to increase, and we would hope it would. And the sort of news we're getting from developers such as Arada, Aleph Group, and Al Zahia is very positive. And there's also a growing number of developments entering the market. You had recently, or not too long ago, the announcement of Sharjah Sustainable City, a JV with Sharuk and with Diamond Developers. And so there's a lot more product that's coming onto the market. And from what developers are telling us is that sales have been great, and they're seeing strong demand still from buyers and investors within the local market in particular. One of the things a lot of developers sold properties, particularly apartments within the University City area on historically, was that the demand from tenants and the strong tenant demand from students and from people within that location. And with the handover of Al Zahia garden apartments, we saw that the truth behind that, and that there is strong demand from students and from tenants in those locations who want a higher and better quality offering within the Sharjah market, and they're willing to pay a premium for it.
Amazing.
Another development I noticed here that's been trending is mixed-use developments. So we're seeing a lot of communities that tend to mix a lot of aspects together. Can you elaborate a little bit about that and why we're seeing more and more of these places prop up in Sharjah?
Yeah, I think sort of globally the trend of sort of mixed-use, live, work, play sort of developments has been there for a while. And it's only recently that's starting to take a foothold in the Sharjah market with the entrance of some of these larger master planned communities that can offer that. Jeddah is a great example of that, where they've got a lot of different uses within their project, and just the area of Muwayla in general. And if you look at it, they've got the schools, you've got a lot of F&B, particularly, Muwayla Commercial a couple of years ago came out as quite a vibrant sort of startup F&B scene. A lot of young Emiratis starting cafes and restaurants in that location. And University City Road, urban planning councils spent a lot of money renovating that and uplifting that to create a new feeling within that location. And proximity to Sharjah Airport, Safe Zone, Sharjah Research, Technology and Innovation Park, and all the great stuff that they're doing in the development of their headquarters, which is going to propel that University City location to become a place where you can live, work and play all within the same space.
That's amazing. Well, Shane, before we conclude, I have to ask you this question. Now, we know that you were born and brought up in Sharjah. Describe the changes you've seen in front of you now as a Sharjawi, and you're coming back here into the studios now, driving past us as well. So what big changes do you see here?
There's been a lot of changes over the past 30 odd years. I think if you look at just the change in sort of the attitude of the Emirate of Sharjah and pushing itself forward, not losing sight of itself. Yes, I mean, places like Al Nahda, Al Khan didn't exist, 20, 30 years ago.
Would you go down the lagoons, though, back in the days?
Yeah, I mean, we'd go to what was Al Jazeera Park.
Yes, there we go.
Flag Island wasn't there. We used to go rollerblading around Al Jazeera Park and go to the swimming pools there. Used to try and see if we could skateboard through the old blue souk before the police would catch us and tell us to stop skateboarding. Yeah, I mean, there's been a huge change in the overall in the Emirates, and it's great to see that some of these developers are trying to do something different and bring Sharjah into the modern world with some of these new offerings, and hopefully that'll attract a lot of new investment into Sharjah.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you and also refreshing those memories. In fact, for all our residents, Al Muntaza Park is also celebrating their 40th anniversary, I think, that is this weekend. And it is something to be proud of for a lot of Sharjawis who've been growing up here and living those recreational facilities that we have to offer. Well, Shane, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you back again.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right, stay tuned to Pulse 95. Lots more real estate to discuss later on, but lots more interesting stories as we go into our little quiz later on as well, Rania. You excited for that?
Looking forward.
Looking forward to that. All right, stay tuned to Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95. Tune in live every weekday from 7 a.m.